What is going on, guys? We are live with our Saturday Showdown picks for this week's Sony Open. We'll start off with some weather, hop into our spreadsheet and our player pool for today, and get you guys ready for today's slate. So first off with the weather, we're looking at yet another day of benign conditions. So first and foremost here at the top, you can see 1 to 4 miles an hour for the guys that'll get to tee off early this morning. Obviously, don't want to be somebody who's playing from far behind. But if you are, you have a good chance to vault yourself up the leaderboard. So you can see very solid conditions. That's going to continue for the entire day. You can see you're only getting up to 5-6 mile an hour winds at the very most towards the end of the day. And overnight, they did get a little bit of precipitation. So not only are you dealing with little to no wind out there, essentially playing indoors at this point, you're also dealing with very soft greens, very soft fairways because of that precipitation. And yesterday we did see it get a little bit harder in the afternoon. A lot of that was because the course was drying out. But now that they got that rain, going to be playing very easy today. So definitely something to keep an eye out for. In terms of our modeling, taking a little bit more of a look at birdie or better percentage today, and also a little bit of a harder look at putting. I do think it's going to be a little bit of a putting fest, particularly if everyone's throwing darts. Now up on the screen, you guys can see our Patreon projections. Of course, these have our Showdown prices on them and our Showdown projections for today. You guys can see our player pool over here, projected ownership. All of this is adjusted for the single round slate. So we won't touch on every player in the field. There are only 65, which is a rarity here for the PGA Tour. Typically, we do get at least 70, 75 guys through the cut. But this week is a true top 65 making the cut. So not quite as large of a player pool as we would typically have, and not quite as many guys up top. You can see the pricing is a little bit soft. Only one guy over $10,000. The mid tier is a little bit scarce this week. Guys were either priced up to be included, either that high 8K, low 9K range, or priced down into the 7K range. So it's going to make for an interesting roster build today for sure. Let's go ahead and start off at the top of the board, though. So Hideki Matsuyama was more expensive than Webb Simpson going into the week, but as of right now, only $9,600. He's not the best course fit. You know, he was somebody who we faded going into this week, and that is going to continue. It's not like he doesn't have the ball striking to go and put himself in a ton of birdie opportunities. It's just I don't think he cashes in enough to at least get you to that ceiling you're looking for a single round slate. In order to win today, I would expect that you need your golfers to have an average of 6-7 under par because of the easy conditions we're expecting. Again, there's no wind out there, even less than what we saw on Thursday and Friday. And of course, it's a little bit softer. So you're going to really need guys to go low today, that's for sure. So Hideki Matsuyama, as much as I like the ball striking, just doesn't have that other key component. On the other hand, Webb Simpson, one of my favorite plays for the single round slate. He's the most expensive player. He's also garnering over 20% ownership. So he's far from a sneaky play, right? He's more of a slam dunk, everyone knows about it type of thing. But at the same time, great course fit. He's great on Bermuda grass for his career. He projects as the highest scoring player on this slate. And when it comes to upside, we know what he's capable of. I mean, he's capable of posting something in the low 60s here at Waialae Country Club, and he's going to need to do so to put himself into contention. He's one of those guys who's going to be starting really early in the morning in some of the easiest conditions that these players will have all week. So he needs to go out there and capitalize on that. So he'll be one of the first guys off today. Really like his upside here. And something that a lot of DFS players tend to do with Showdown is they'll try and target some of the guys at the top of the board. And while for Sunday Showdown, that makes a ton of sense. You have those placement points baked in. For Saturday Showdown, it means absolutely nothing. You're just looking for top end score, ceiling type of performances from these players. And Webb Simpson, given his course fit, given his ball striking acumen, he's been striking the hell out of it over this weekend. I expect a lot of that to continue. I can see we've had a lot of people funnel in here, so we'll go to the comments here. Devin says, NFL stream was nice last night. Let's have another solid day at golf. Absolutely. That NFL stream, by the way, if anyone hasn't seen it, that is up on Gundacker's channel. Highly recommend you watch it. It's about 2 hours. We break down every NFL game for this weekend in full detail, whether it's for the main slate, Showdown slate. That is a very entertaining, very informative stream. Highly recommend you check that out. And Barry says, what's up, Luke? You have a Hideki, Kirk, Stanley for single entry cash. Armor back nine for the cut. Yeah, dude, that was awesome. He had 6 straight birdies there on the back nine. I had 15% Ryan Armour. So I took a pretty solid stand on him considering he was right around 1.5% owned. And yeah, thank goodness, right, Barry? Hideki wasn't my favorite play, but I like those other two a lot. And there's one thing Hideki can do, it is can make cuts. So if you're in single injury cash, yeah, he was absolutely the play of this week. He's going to be one of those consistent guys. Him and Cory Connors are just the cut makers. If you need somebody to go out and make a cut, those two are going to be your guy. Let's go ahead and continue down the player pool here, though. Mark Leishman here at $9,300. He has seen a significant price decrease. I know he didn't have the best day yesterday. Was striking it well, just couldn't buy a putt. But if there's one thing that we can count on from Mark Leishman, it's the putter at least being there for 2 or 3 of the 4 days. He might have that one down day like we saw yesterday, but he's a world-class putter, particularly on Bermuda grass. And at Kapalua, he only had that hot putter for 2 days. And in those 2 days, shot 16 under. Now, granted, this is a completely different setup, a much more difficult golf course to score on, but at the same time, really like his putting ability, like the way that he was striking yesterday. And $9,300, a great price tag for Mark Leishman. So I will definitely have my fair amount of exposureship there. Kevin Na down here at $9,400. I'm probably not going to have much. He looked really off kilter yesterday. He was missing almost every single fairway. I believe he hit 4 all day, and his greens regulation percentage was one of the lowest in the field. So it's no surprise he shot over par. That is definitely concerning. I hope he turns it around. I have him in a lot of my high dollar lineups this week, particularly those that are in the top 100 of the large field GPP. So for my sake, I hope he turns it around. But for Showdown, I'm going to take a wait and see approach. That was definitely concerning what we saw. Cory Connor's down here, right? He's Mr. Consistency. But at the same time, much like Hideki Matsuyama, I question his top end upside, right? He's going to put himself in a lot of scoring opportunities, particularly with the soft conditions. He'll be even more so able to stuff them close, apply extra spin, get them to stop right next to the pin. The issue is I don't know if he's going to cash in enough. So much like Hideki, if his shots game putting on Bermuda was a little bit better, would probably be my favorite play on the slate. But as is, a little bit lukewarm on him. He's almost $10,000. He has seen a significant price increase. He's also the second to highest owned player on the slate, behind Russell Henley. So I don't think we need to invest all of our lineups into him, right? If he's 25% owned, we're looking at investing 55 to 60% of our lineups into that type of player to get significant leverage. And again, I don't think that's necessary. I like these other guys priced a little bit lower than him, a lot more. Let's go ahead and talk about some of those options, right? So that 60% of ownership, I can split between these 3 or 4 players very easily, get a larger spread on the field. And these players, I would say, have arguably much higher upside. So first off, Harris English, very similar ball striking to Cory Connors when he's on. Now, granted, that's when Harris English has his game. Hasn't looked the sharpest this week, but he's also somebody who's not shy about going out there and putting up a nuclear round. We saw that a few weeks ago. He posted an 8 under round after being over par for the first 2 rounds. I believe that was at the Hero World Challenge. He hasn't had the worst week, right? He still made the cut. The cut was 5 under par. I believe he's 7 under right now. Would not surprise me at all. He went out there, showed his old ball striking type of form, and had a really nice day. To this point, has made a lot of putts. Hasn't really stroked the balls really as well as he should be at this point, for the type of player he is historically. So we could see some positive regression there. I like that a whole lot. He's 11.8% owned, so also coming in at relatively overlooked for the slate. Definitely somebody I'll have ownership to. Next up, we have Taylor Gooch at $9,200. He was one of my favorite plays going into the week. That is going to continue, particularly after playing so well yesterday. He went out there, was hitting every single fairway, every single green. And though he started a little bit slow, it was a lot of pars to open up his day, ended with a really solid round. So I like the momentum that he has going forward. And much like a Kevin Na, he's in all my high dollar lineups. Everything that's up there in the top 100 of large field GPP has a Taylor Gooch. I like what I saw from him yesterday, though, right? So he's somebody I liked going into the week, like the momentum that we're seeing. And we're going to look to ride that hot form. We have Kevin Kisner and Billy Horschel. I'm going to go ahead and lump these 2 players together. They're not priced at the same type of range, but in terms of their skill set, almost identical, right? Short off the tee, get away with that here. Great with their short irons. That's exactly what we're looking for. And of course, the shots gained putting numbers on Bermuda, excellent. So they looked good day 1. They looked good day 2. They didn't put up a ceiling type of performance. A lot of that has come down to the ball striking, both of them slightly losing on approach. So if they can come out here, regress towards their means with their irons, show what we have historically seen from both of these players, continue that hot putter, they're going to put up a really solid day. So I like going to both of these players here. Billy Horschel, a little bit more chalky, a little bit more expensive, but I still like playing him today. Again, he's not as chalky as somebody like a Cory Connors. or even a Jason Kochrack or a Russell Henley down here, who also aren't going to be making my player pool. I mean, that's the thing, right? There's going to be slam dunk plays, and I understand it with Russell Henley, right? He's my highest owned player for my 4-round slate. Had him yesterday for Showdown. Loved being on that, right? He went out there, had another great round. The issue is golf's a volatile sport, and even the best plays at times, if they're coming in too highly owned, I'll just blindly fade them. It's a volatile sport by nature, particularly when we have an 18-hole sample size. A lot of this really comes down to ownership, particularly if you're playing in a large field tournament. Now, if you're playing in cash, that is a completely different game. We're looking for median projection there, but a lot of this advice, at least a majority of it, unless I mention that it's for cash, is going to be for GPP purposes. So I'm not going to have Jason Kochrack or Henley in my GPP pool, much too highly owned. We could see Henley come in over 30%, would not surprise me at all. Jason Kochrack could be even closer to 25%, and that wouldn't surprise me. It looks like people are willing to forgive and forget Kochrack for what we saw last week at Kapalua, and I'm not as easy to forget. He looked absolute dog shit last week. He was missing the largest fairways on the PGA Tour. They have legit rough here at Waialae. And if he just loses a little bit of that touch off the tee, I mean, he's been immaculate off the tee at this point. I believe he's leading the field in shots gained off the tee. He's going to be in some real trouble because he's not the best player out of the rough. He is horrible around the green. If he's missing these greens because he's in the rough, he's going to bleed strokes. So Jason Kochrack, he's probably my biggest stand of the slate. I don't expect him to continue striking the ball off the tee like he is. He's historically not the most accurate driver, and that's going to cause you issues here at Waialae. I would definitely target some of these shorter hitters. They get the ball in the fairway a lot more. You're going to see a lot of advantage to that over the weekend, particularly as this rough just gets gnarlier and gnarlier as the weekend goes on. Russell Henley at $9,500. It's a pure ownership fade. I absolutely love his course fit here. I love what we've seen so far. I have an outright bet on Russell Henley. It's making me pretty happy right now. But at the same time, for Showdown, he's just well too far inflated in terms of ownership. I talked about the volatility before. He could fall flat on his face today, and it would not surprise me. Maverick Mcneilly at $8,700. And that's particularly because he's 3 shots ahead, right? You have to sleep on a 3-shot lead. That's not the easiest thing to do. Even guys like Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson feel that type of pressure. Let's talk about Maverick Mcneilly now. He's $8,700, fairly priced. Has seen a slight increase in his price since the 4-round slate started. In terms of course fit, he's not an ideal course fit, right? He's more of a bomb and gouge type of guy. You like him at small greens type of golf courses because he's very skilled at getting up and down. But the thing with Maverick Mcneilly is that he's elevated the rest of his game over the last year. He's no longer that specialist that you try and target at Pebble Beach, some of these harder type of golf courses where we get a lot of wind. He's capable of taking out a birdie fest now. We know he's one of the best putters out there on the PGA Tour. This shots gained putting Bermuda number, this is by far his worst split. That's his worst surface, and we've still seen him fill it up this week. So he's really, if we take a look at the long-term numbers, he's not jumping off of the board. But if you were to take this down to a 3-month sample size, he'd be a top 10 course fit for this field. So that's where I'm looking at Maverick Mcneilly. Again, I've seen a completely different player over these last 3 to 4 months than what we've seen for his career. And with that type of skill set in mind, a great price there at $8,700. Decent ownership at 15.4%. It's not too high. We can still get some leverage there, right around 35%. And he'll definitely be in my pool. Now we have Eric Van Rooyen. I know someone down in the Discord did want me to touch on Eric Van Rooyen, so we will, right? He's very inaccurate off the tee. I have very similar issues to Jason Kochrack. He's been immaculate this far. He's hit almost every fairway. The issue is historically, that's just not his thing, right? He might be able to do it for a round or 2 at a time. But guys like Jason Kochrack, guys like an Eric Van Rooyen, eventually going to run into a little bit of trouble. So even though he's relatively low owned, he does project for nice value in terms of his projection. A lot of that comes down to his volatility. He's going to put up a ton of birdies, which is really solid for Showdown, but also his fair amount of bogeys. So if you're looking for a volatile guy that's relatively low owned to round out a lineup, he could be the guy there. But for me, not going to be a priority. Sheamus Power also probably not in today's player pool. Again, one of my favorite plays for the 4-round slate, had plenty of exposureship there. He was one of my top 3 highest owned golfers. The issue is the ownership, right? 21.3%. He's very hit or miss. He's either going to go out there, get you a 6-7 under round, or probably post something closer to even par. He's one of those extremely volatile players who, if he's low owned, great taking shots on, right? If he's closer to single digit ownership, he's well worth the risk, could go out and pay it off. But if he's chalk, I usually like to fade the other side, right? Because he has that low end volatility, that low end floor. which could go and really bite the whole field. I mean, if he comes in closer to 25 to 30% ownership, which for a guy towards the top of the leaderboard, that's at a pretty nice price tag there of $8,800, would not surprise me. Could really be a spot to make some leverage up on the field this week. Let's move on to the middle tier range. Now we're talking really guys in the 7K range to begin the week. Some of them have been priced up like a Christian Bezainhout. Some of them have been priced down inexplicably like a Brent Seneca, who's only $6,600. And as of right now is in the top 5 of this golf tournament. So again, the algorithm for DraftKings doesn't always make sense, but let's touch on some of our favorite targets. Bezainhout, number 1. He is an absolute Bermuda grass specialist. They call him Bermuda grass Bezainhout for a reason. He's got a very solid long game as well. One of the best long iron players on tour. And while that's not necessarily the biggest advantage this week, he's been laying back a lot. He's been making sure to take advantage of that. He's hit a lot of driving irons off the tee, and as a result has been able to take advantage of his very precise iron game. So he's really playing the course strategically. I like that. On the par 5s, he has more than enough distance with his driver to get it there in 2. So when he needs to hit driver, he's been doing that exceptionally well this week too. So like the fairway percentages that we've seen from Christian Bezainhout, really like the putting so far. I mean, actually yesterday was one of his worst putting performances that we've seen of late, and still was able to shoot a respectable score. I mean, he at one point was well over par, ended up making a bunch of birdies down the stretch to get to 1 under, and kept our hopes alive of getting all 4 rounds under 69, which is nice. There's a huge bonus for that on DraftKings if you guys weren't aware. For DraftKings scoring. So nice that he got back under par. I'll be back on him here. Good course fit here. He is getting some ownership. That's fair. He's a very good course fit here, coming in with really good form. Siwoo Kim is the X factor. I don't have him for my 4-round stuff, so I'm willing to get exposure ship here at Showdown because he's such a volatile player. If he goes out there and he's on his game, he could break 60 today. I'm not saying that he's going to go out and do that, but there's probably a handful of players in this field that are capable of doing that. They have the aggressive nature. They have the ability to light it up with the putter. That's Siwoo Kim, right? And he ended up having a good day yesterday. Wasn't so sold on the putter being there. You can see for his career, a significant loser on Bermuda grass. But for whatever reason, whenever he finds the hot putter, it's usually on Bermuda. All of his wins have been on Bermuda grass. So even though he historically and week to week is very bad on the surface, he does have ceiling performances on this surface more than any other surface, it's such an enigma, right? He's so bad on the surface, but if he's ever going to have a really, really good day, it is going to be on the surface. It's a strange phenomena that happens with Siwoo Kim, but it's a well-documented trend at this point. So I'll be on it for Showdown, right? If he has that ceiling performance with the putter, I want to be there. We have Brian Harmon at $7,500. That guy cannot hit anything this week. The guy is missing almost every single fairway. His irons have well below average, losing strokes on approach. The thing is, his putter has been on absolute fire. And much like we said yesterday, there's a reason why I played him in my player pool. If he can turn around that iron game, which has historically been so consistent for him, he's going to absolutely have a great round. So I'm once again on that. I'm waiting for that iron game to come around. He was still able to shoot under par yesterday, despite losing with his irons for the tournament. You have Denny McCarthy, who I told you guys he was going to turn it around, right? I told you he's going to start making some putts. He shot 7 under yesterday, I believe. Yeah, he's 6 under for the tournament now. He's going to continue that. The guy is an absolute Bermuda grass wizard. He's one of the best putters on Bermuda grass in the world. And the irons have been there for rounds 1 and 2, and that's usually what's not there for Denny McCarthy. So if he can continue that, again, iron play, the most consistent shots gained category from round to round by far of anything on the PGA Tour. Number 2 would be shots gained off the tee, by the way, for anyone interested. That's very encouraging. So I like going to him a whole lot. Concerned about Keegan Bradley's putting. He ended up having a nice day yesterday, but the putting on round 1 was atrocious. I'm worried that continues here in the round 3 as well. Even though he looked good in round 2, right? He had some spike performances. I'll give him at least a little bit of props here. He had a few spike performances in 2021 with Bermuda grass, most notably at the Valspar Championship, where he almost took down that tournament. I was watching him there in person, and the guy was making everything. I mean, he's always a great ball striker, but when this guy makes putts, he's scary. Just hasn't really done that this week. So I'm going to be off of him for the slate. Just guys like Siwoo Kim, who I like the upside a little bit more on. If you're going to spend down a little bit, actually, I suppose he's a little bit more expensive for Showdown here. Patrick Kazire at $7,600. He's a recent winner here. He's got the putting we're looking for on Bermuda grass, solid approach play. The off the tee play isn't what we're looking for, but he's played here a whole bunch. He knows when to hit driver, when to lay back, has a solid strategy that obviously works here. He has multiple top 10 finishes that win on his record, and his best course for course history. And if you guys have been here for a while, you know I'm not a huge course history person, but yeah, it's at least at times nice to see that. We have a comment down in the chat, and I'll remind you guys, if you have anyone you want me to do a deep dive on, just let me know, and I'll cover them in terms of their shots gained metrics, whatever you want to know here for tomorrow, or a question about lineups. I'm willing to cover those as well. So go ahead and let me know. Bear says not going to be a popular pick, but I like Mitchell on moving day. If you're looking for a guy that can make you 8 birdies in a row, like Ryan Armour did, Keith Mitchell's your guy. Let's see. He's a little bit more expensive than I'd like. Let's see, where's he at here? Keith Mitchell, yeah, $7,400. He's a lot less expensive than what he was on the 4-round slate, which is nice to see. I don't like the off the tee accuracy. He could definitely spray it at times. So more of a GPP play than anything. But if you're looking for someone, like I said, to go out and get you 7-8 birdies in a row, he's done it 4 times in his career. So this is a guy that's more than capable of going nuclear. I really like him at some of these longer Bermuda grass type of golf courses. But if you want to go and use him out here, I mean, Honda Classic over there at PGA National, that's not a long golf course, and he took that place down for a win. So I could see it, man. And that's actually Honda Classic PGA National. It's not a bad comp course for this type of venue, so I get it. We have another question down in the chat. Who's your favorite pick in the less than 7K range? So we'll get to the 6K range here in about a minute, and I'll cover that right then. So good segue into the next range here, guys. So my favorite play in the 6K range. So a couple guys I'd be considering down low. Davis Riley has looked great with the ball striking so far. He's top 5 in shots gained tee to green in this entire field. JT Poston, I'm always a sucker for his putting. He's looked very good with the ball striking this week as well. Not quite elite. He's in the top 25, though, from shots gained tee to green. We have Parbojan. He's heavily underrated, only $6,300. He's also looked very solid to this point. Luke Donald, if you're looking for the old guy, if you want to try and replicate what Jim Furyk did in round 1, Luke Donald could be that guy. He made 6 straight birdies yesterday at one point, was well outside of the cut line and earned himself a trip to the weekend. I always like guys that are coming in with positive momentum. Vincent Whaley, he's $7,100, so it's a little bit of cheating to try and use him here as somebody in this quote-unquote 6K range, but he was in that mid 6K range to start the week. He's good at these coastal, shorter type of tracks. Solid wedge player, solid putter on Bermuda grass. Really somebody who doesn't get the credit he deserves. So I expect him to be relatively underlooked. Those would be my main options. A few other people we could throw out there. Grayson Sigg, I'll definitely have exposureship there. Very solid iron player, very solid on Bermuda grass. This number right here, -1 shots gained putting Bermuda. That's just due to small sample size. He's a solid putter on Bermuda grass. Saw that yesterday, and you saw that on Thursday. And Hayden Buckley, another guy at $7,100. Who has seen a price increase since the 4-round slate. All the metrics looked great on him going into the weekend. That has continued. The kid is just really separating himself from the rest of these Korn Ferry Tour guys. He has been by far the most consistent guy that's a rookie this year. If they had Rookie of the Year voting as of right now, I imagine he would be winning that, even without a win. Would be at the top of that board. Kita Nakajima at $6,900. He's my favorite play in the 6K range. And again, he's $6,900, so he's at the top of that range. The kid was throwing darts yesterday. Again, it rained overnight, so anybody that's getting in here late, they did have some precipitation at Waialae overnight. So as a result, you're looking at really soft greens. The iron players are going to get even more of an advantage. They're going to be able to just throw darts, like I'm saying. And of course, we're looking for putters on Bermuda grass. And we don't know how good of a putter Nakajima is. And maybe that's a good thing, right? We know he's hitting the ball really well right now. Historically, going into the future, this guy might be a stud putter. And if he is, and he's hitting the ball like he is right now, he could post something real low. So he's one of those guys that kind of got to buy in early on without much knowledge of his game. But I'll be doing so. He's looked super sharp to this point. I played him in Showdown yesterday, put up, I believe, 7 under par, something like that. Yeah, he would be my favorite play in the 6K range. I mean, the kid could very well be the next Victor Hovland or Colin Morikawa. He's the number 1 amateur in the world. Those guys were as well. Tiger Woods was also the number 1 amateur in the world. On the other side, you could say Smiley Kaufman was number 1 player in the world, that kind of thing as well. But you guys get the point. The kid's got a really, really bright future. Brent Seneca, his price tag here at $6,600 If you're looking for just a purely broken price tag on this slate, that's going to be Brent Seneca. He should be $75,000 to $8,000 on this slate. The guy had a really solid day yesterday, really good course fit. He's almost won this event multiple times, nearly half a stroke gain per round on Bermuda grass. Really checks all the boxes here. And we have a comment down here. He says, Cebu or McCarthy? Oof. Let's say Cebu because Cebu maybe a little bit higher owned, but also has that higher end volatility. That's close, though. I really like McCarthy as well. But yeah, I would side with Cebu there. All right, what we're going to do now is we're going to talk a little bit about strategy. So anytime we have one of these showdown slates, like I said before, because we only have an 18-hole sample size, there's a lot of extra volatility in play. Game theory is almost more important than projections, right? If we were to just run a set of 150 lineups with our projected points right now, that would be far from what I would consider an optimal showdown build. So for today, really, if we're going to try and take a chalky build. So let's go ahead and talk about what I expect most people to do today. I expect most people to try and take two people up top, right? So the chalky of all the chalk is going to be to take somebody like a Webb Simpson, probably take Cory Connors as well. They are the two most expensive players on the board. So perhaps they only end up taking one of the two. If they do that, you're probably looking at them either mixing in a Russell Henley, a Jason Kochrack, maybe somebody like a Taylor Gooch as well. He might come in a little bit higher owned than 15%. So how you can differentiate here, right? And how I'm personally going to be doing it. I'm going to have a lot of Kevin Kisner and a lot of Harris English. They're kind of the odd men out here. By taking one of these two players, I can still take some of these chalkier options. Now, granted, I'm not going to have it Cory Connors just because I kind of question his putting ability. But going to somebody like Webb Simpson, going to somebody like a Mark Leishman without any type of pause is going to be possible if I take somebody in this close to 10% level of ownership. So that's how I'm going to be handling a majority of my lineups. I'm also not going to shy away from starting lineups with somebody like a Harris English, Taylor Gooch, or a Harris English, Taylor Gooch, and a Kevin Kisner. You guys can see you could probably fit in all three of them into a lineup. Granted, they're only $92, $85, and $8,400. And I wouldn't even have to go into the 6K range if I don't want to. But something I definitely do for GPP contests, particularly for Showdown, is I leave quite a bit of salary out on the table. I'm willing to leave upwards of $2,000 at sometimes. And you see Showdown winners all the time, particularly in the large 100K to first type of contest with 1, 2, even 3K salary left on the table. So don't be shy to do that. He said, thoughts on Ryan Palmer? You talk the talk and walk the walk. Yeah, like I said, he mentioned it was a good course fit. At the same time, he really struggled on the front nine. He got to the front nine, which is the easier of the 2-9 golf courses, and he struggled yesterday. Historically, he's not the best course fit. I faded him to this point. I'm going to continue doing so. I mean, I told you guys yesterday you should probably be playing Ryan Palmer. I had him in one of my Showdown lineups, which was a fade. He was much higher owned by the field. And I'm not convinced that continues. I mean, the guy's comfortable on the golf course, but at the same time, doesn't have the best course fit. He's a little bit inaccurate off the tee. And you saw that bite him yesterday. And that could very well bite him again. I mean, it's not just the water that can bite him. If he's missing these fairways here, getting into that rough, you could look at an extra 2-3 bogeys if he misses 4 or 5 fairways today. So I'm a little bit worried about Ryan Palmer, especially because he's chalk, right? So if we go up here, find Ryan Palmer. Let's see. Ryan Palmer, right? I have him for 21% ownership, right? So that's why I didn't even talk about him. Much like a Charles Howell III, much like a Sheamus Power, much like a Jason Kochrack, they're not the best. I mean, outside Sheamus Power. Sheamus Power is an excellent course fit. Outside of him, just not the best course fit, right? A little bit inaccurate off the tee, not what we're looking for. Historically, on Bermuda grass, not the best putter. So as much as I like my narrative every once in a while, we took advantage of that yesterday. Not something I'm going to reliably look to use going forward. I mean, he could very, very well hit 2 or 3 shots into the water today and ruin his round. Barry says, you like Simpson today, but I'd rather play him with a partner. Oh, so yeah, he's playing by himself. Good point. So I forgot about that. He's the first one off. That's a good point, Barry. Sometimes that's helpful. Like sometimes they love playing fast. They kind of like playing at their own pace. Webb Simpson's a slower player. I don't know if you've noticed that with Webb. He really takes his time, especially with like talking out iron shots, talking out his reads. He used to use the green reading book a whole lot. So he was actually one of the guys I was slightly concerned about with reading greens. Still slightly concerned about that. Don't get me wrong. The guys that use those green reading books probably going to take them a few tournaments to get used to it. Like you said, it could go either way. Some guys really like playing by themselves. I know personally, I've played some of my best golf when I've gone out as a solo at the end of the day at a Muni course, on a cart and finish around in like an hour and a half. I've had some of my best rounds by far in my whole golf career. So it could go either way. Some guys hate it. Some guys really like it. Jordan Spieth would hate it. He's got to be talking to someone the whole time. Whereas a Webb Simpson, maybe he'll enjoy that tranquility. So I wouldn't look into it too much. I wouldn't let it hinder your process one way or the other. I think you'd be doing yourself a little bit of a disservice if you let that impact your process. All right, what we'll do now before we hop out of here. Again, if you have any questions or anyone want me to deep dive into, let me know now, because after we talk about these cash players, we're going to go out and get out of here. So for cash today, I think Webb at $10,300, at least from the builds that I've ran early on, is a slightly prohibitive price tag. I mean, there's a lot of really safe plays in that 8K range, that middle 9K range as well. That for cash builds are projecting just a little bit higher in terms of median. So for a cash build, you're probably looking at starting lineups a lot with Taylor Gooch. I'm probably using Kevin Na as well, given that he played so well on Thursday, given he's so good of a course fit. He won here last year. For cash, probably makes a lot of sense to go back to him. But for GPPs, there's my reasoning for why I'm fading him, 18% right there. A few other guys you can mix into a cash type of build. Jason Kochrack has a really solid price tag, right? You're not worried about the ownership over there in cash. Another guy you could fit in, Kevin Kisner. If you're looking for a better course fit, someone that I personally think has a better round today, you can go Kevin Kisner's way as well. He's not chalk, which actually for cash is slightly disadvantageous. You want to be taking as much chalk as possible. Again, I do actually think that he has a much better day than Jason Kochrack. Moving down a little bit further, a few other people I'd be trying to mix in this 7K range. I mean, you're going to have enough salary to take another guy in the 8K range, but just go ahead and take your favorite target. Siwoo Kim would not be a cash play, right? That's much more of a GBP play. He's definitely Jekyll and Hyde when it comes to his play. Good one day, really bad the next. Denny McCarthy for cash would definitely be a good look. I know I mentioned him yesterday as a solid cash play with the positive regression we were supposed to expect. He's relatively underpriced there. The cash play of the slate, though, almost undoubtedly is going to be Brent Seneca at $6,600. Where is Sneds at? Sneds is right here, number 33. Again, great course fit. The price makes no sense. He should be a solid $1,000 more expensive. So yeah, really like Seneca there. In terms of some of the dumpster dive plays for cash, I like Luke Donald, right? Great course fit, great putter on Bermuda grass. Had a really solid day yesterday. I don't think you can go wrong going to him. And probably Hayden Buckley. I mentioned it before. He was really separating himself from a lot of these Korn Ferry Tour guys across the board, whether it's recent form, course fit, pretty much everything on the board there. So make sure to go ahead and maybe sprinkle him in some of your cash lineups today. A few comments down the chat. We have a question on Sheamus Powers. So let's hop into Mr. Power real quick. Power is going to cost you a good amount today, $8,800, I believe, if memory serves me right. Yep, $8,800. Great course fit, right? He's also chalky, right? So I prefer him over Ryan Palmer. If you were going to try and take somebody chalky in this 8K range, Ryan Palmer's got a great price tag on him. I will say that, right? So that's another part of the reason that he's chalk. The only issue that I have with Sheamus Power, even though he's a great course fit, unlike Ryan Palmer, is the price tag, right? He's $8,800. That's a more than fair price tag. He's also chalk. So neither is my favorite play today, personally. So that's all I'll say on that. And what is going on, Isaiah? Thoughts on JT Poston? Yeah, man. If he can turn the ball striking around, he had it on Thursday. He didn't have it yesterday. If he has it for Saturday and Sunday, I like his chances to make a move up the board. I mean, we know how good of a putter he is. So yeah, if he can turn those irons around, which we saw on Thursday, I really like his chances. And Barry says liking Kisner. Yeah, me too, man. Just absolute Bermuda grass wizard. He looked really good at a solid golf course last week. That golf course, 7,600 yards, far from Kisner's specialty. Now, Waialae right around 7,000 yards. That's exactly in his wheelhouse. So definitely like that a lot. He said any CH3 love. Ooh, no. I'm in the theory that CH3 is getting up there in age, and we're going to see some regression. So he had that round one, right? I felt like a genius after round one because he had such a shitty round. Went out there round two, kind of stuck into my face, right? Went out there, shot 7 under par. I'm pretty sure at a certain point it was the round of the day. I'm not a huge believer in him long term. I think we're going to see a lot of regression from CH3, Chucky 3 sticks. Even though this has been, pretty much his golf tournament. I mean, he's made the cut here how many times? He's never won this golf tournament, but he leads the money list for this event. There's been multiple winners of this event, and he's made more money at Sony Open than any of those guys. I don't know. You could play him, right? I'm not a huge fan of him today. And it's again really just comes down to his age, and it's unfortunate, but we have seen him regress heavily over the last few years. I mean, last year lost strokes on approach. That's not something that is going to breed success for CH3. He can't be doing that and keeping his tour card. That's for sure. Cool. That's all we got here for today, guys. If you guys are watching this after the fact, you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and put them down in the chat. I'll try and get back to you before lock there. If you have another question I see before we hop on out of here, it said favorite GPP pool. I mean, I just showed you my whole player pool, but I'm assuming you mean player. My favorite GPP player, Sibu Kim. I think that he could go out there and have a real low one today. But yeah, if you guys have any further questions, feel free to go ahead and put them down in chat, and let's get this cash today.